So the National Consumer Commission has raised the alarm over the sale of expired food at discounted prices, and it sparked nationwide inspections to root out unsafe and expired products from shelves. Now, this proactive measure aims to safeguard consumer health and ensure compliance with food safety regulations. To give us more details on this, we are joined by the Head of Complaints and Investigations at the National Consumer Commission, Prudence Moilwa. Prudence, a good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I think that this is a really important discussion, particularly where we're looking at some of the more vulnerable communities. But what sparked this initiative by the National Consumer Commission to have these nationwide inspections?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having us. What sparked it is literally the discourse that has been going on all platforms. Consumers are concerned, have raised concern, not just with the Commission, but I think throughout the country, there has been a national discourse on social media platforms, even I think on national television as well. Concerns have been raised with regard to the quality of the food that is being sold in the market. So the Commission, being not a reactive, but a responsive and responsible organization, decided to start prioritizing the inspection of retailers to ensure that the goods that are sold are safe for consumption, not only that, but also of good quality.
Yeah. And who are you inspecting? I think that's the important part, right? So is it just the bigger retailers, or is it also, does the NCC have the ability to go into some of the spaza shops in our communities?
Yes. During our planning, actually, we made sure that we go to district municipalities, targeting mostly your corner shops in the towns, right, in the small towns, as well as the spaza shops. So this time what we're doing is we're targeting all the retailers, be it spaza shops, be it your corner shops, be it your bigger retailers. We want to just make sure that everybody who sells things in the market sell goods that are of good quality and are of safe quality as well.
Yeah. So what are you finding? And I'm talking now about in some of the spaza shops. And, you know, there's, of course, the question of this is happening and people are able to buy or are buying expired goods because they're cheaper. So firstly, what are you finding? So how extreme are some of these expired products? And have you found that people are choosing to buy these products because of the high price of food?
We think that is a possibility. We think that people might buy these goods at that are sold cheaper or that are discounted on the basis that they are no longer of good quality. And that is the practice that is really, we don't take it lightly. And as the Commission, we see it as a business just putting their bottom line above the consumer interest. Because what we also know is that when you go into the shops, and what we've picked up is that your fresh produce is not necessarily a problem, but your packaged goods,
yes,
where things like chicken, frozen chicken that is visibly rotten, and things that you find that if they were to be consumed, what we also saw was the quality of the old juices, where we saw that they were already foaming, where you can tell that really these things have really expired a long time ago. So even things that expired about a year or two ago are still in the market. And we also found that, indiscriminately, suppliers are then trying to put these goods out as cheaper when in fact we know that it's self-serving for them. Yeah. So the Commission looks down on that, and those goods, when we find them, they are confiscated. And it's also important to emphasize that we have a multidisciplinary team. We have the Department of Health, we have environmental health practitioners, we have the police, we also have the local enforcement officials that also have the powers to also remove the products, but also to continue in this act. So we are starting this process, but it's also meant to encourage local law enforcement officials to continue with what the Commission has started.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, you're saying in some cases you've seen products that expired a year or two ago, but there's labeling on a lot of these products, right? So how are retailers getting away with that, with packages that, one would hope are labeled, yes?
Yeah, they are labeled where you find that the best before indeed, and that's how we're able to determine that they probably expired or reached their best before date almost a year ago or even 2 years ago. We can see on the labels. And I think what the one conversation that we are having with the retailers is that the manufacturers of this product put the best before for a reason, because they can vouch for the freshness of the product as well as the safety of the product. Now, in instances where the best before have come and gone, then the retailers need to also bear the brunt of saying you are keeping them on the shelves, you are continuing to sell them to consumers when you know that they are no longer fresh or even unsafe for consumption.
Yeah, but is there any relabeling happening? So perhaps the best before date has been passed and the retailer putting something else over that?
Yes, we've found instances, not necessarily of putting something else over it, but the repackaging. So the same products are then taken and put in clear plastics, and they are not labeled at all. So we do find that in instances such as that, they are visibly not of good quality, and they have been repackaged into a clear packaging so that consumers can just buy it without knowing whether or not they are still in the best before environment. It's very important because all products that have been, especially consumables, need to have that kind of labeling so that consumers can see, as well as retailers can then see for how long they should keep them on the shelves. So in instances where it's just clear packaging and there is no labeling, it's even worse, because then it means consumers are not able to see the ingredients, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, they're not also able to see the best before dates on the products.
You know, I'm worried about the where, right? Because I think it's a little bit easier for us to have this conversation when you're living in an urban setting, because for us living in urban areas, you may have a few more options of where to buy. But if you are perhaps in a rural environment, there is that one corner shop and you don't have very many options that are close by. Just how much work are you doing then in rural areas? I think that those communities, as you can imagine, could be the most vulnerable. And also, this is where the most vulnerable people, so the elderly, for instance, are buying their food.
Yes, no, correct. Look, our inspector, and the reason why we've scoped our inspections per district is to make sure that we go deeper into the rural areas where consumers, as you correctly indicate, would not have an option of a lot of shops being in the environment. And that is exactly where we are finding these things, where we find that consumers are then exposed to this kind of where they have to then buy these products because they have nowhere to go. So, and that is why the option of having a multidisciplinary team where we can then say, let's remove them rather. Because if we were to leave it up to the same suppliers to say remove them, they're going to then put them back on the shelves after we have left. So it's very important for consumers to also be vigilant, to also contact the Commission in their own environments to come and have this kind of inspections and also bring awareness. We recently had an awareness where a community group, I think it was in Attridgeville, where they called us in to really empower them as well, to say to us, look, we are in this area and we are aware that a lot of shops are selling things that have expired. What are the things to look out for? And the Commission gladly presented itself to build awareness as well as also empower the community. So that is the kind of partnership that the Commission is looking forward to.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps we need to talk about what needs to happen when the NCC does come into a spaza shop, for instance, or a corner shop that is selling food that is expired by a year or two. What's the next step? I mean, where's accountability? Where's justice? How do you handle the situation? Can arrests be made?
Yes, they can. I think the recent case was when we were in Mangaung in March, where we found that the particular supplier was selling goods that have expired indiscriminately, all sorts of products, where in terms of the Health Act, the police and the environmental health practitioners were able to close the shop. And it's also very important for South Africans to be aware that in terms of the Health Act, that is also enforced by the environmental health practitioners. When you sell food, you need to have a certificate of compliance, where you're supposed to show that the environment itself is suitable for selling food, even if it's not a restaurant. So we find that in the main, people just start opening shops and they do not have a certificate of compliance. In Mangaung in particular, what we found is that there were even suppliers who had fake certificates of compliance. And those are the kind of shops that we then proceed to work with the police to close them down and to ensure that those goods are also removed from the market. Another thing that is also very important is that the Commission, after doing the market monitoring, what it then does is that it will come back to the office and conclude on the investigations with a view of conducting prosecutions.
Yeah, you know, I'd like to do this, if you will, Prudence, to put some power back in the hands of the viewer who's watching anywhere in the country and says, well, there's a corner shop that does sell, you know, a canned food that is expired by over a year. What is it that I can do so that they're able to feel like they have some sort of control?
Yes, I think, firstly, the consumers have a right to engage the suppliers, to bring them to say that we are aware that you're doing this. But that's, I think, just bringing awareness to the supply. Another important thing that they can do is to contact the Commission. Our numbers are there. We also have a social media presence. Please contact the Commission. We are looking for that partnership with communities where we can be able to then have them as our watchdogs, so to speak, on the ground to bring that awareness so that our inspectors can deal with this matter swiftly.
Yeah, so give you a call and then you're able to work with communities. I'm trying to find that number now. If you have it, please do share it. Otherwise, I'll share it as well.
Yes, the contact center for the Commission is 012-428-7000. 012-428-7000.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's really important that we share that number so people are able to protect themselves, their communities, their children, the most vulnerable, but also to help you really get this under control. I think it's work that's necessary for everyone to be doing as well. Thank you so much for speaking to us. We really, really do appreciate it. That number, once again, to get in touch with the National Consumer Commission. If in your area there is a store that you have found is selling expired, unsafe food goods, let them know and let them come and investigate. 012-428-7000. That was Prudence Moilwa, who is the head of complaints and investigations at the National Consumer Commission.